That's between you. I have to say,
Recommending
here's the board.
Yeah.
Here's the-
You don't want somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what you can get.
I was gonna ask you if you would like to, or if anyone would like to. That's great.
That says Brianna, that says college.
See, today is April 16th, so it's actually.
Am I in the wrong spot? Yours says Colin. Oh, maybe
That
that's
was
because
me,
he's
because
not
Okay.
giving.
I didn't mind
It's
what
still
the
the same, I
Yeah,
just
I
need
can
to
scoot
correct the date.
think it'd be
Yeah, Mike's not gonna be here if you guys want to slide down.
Okay, that's what we were trying to decide. Here, we'll just scoot on.
Okay, so this over here.
We'll sign it. So we don't even need. How's it going?
I'm gonna set a long body, I always have to hold mine up.
We just want to make sure.
What?
Put an ultimatum in there that we're gonna.
Is this?
I think so.
We have another one around, another packet.
This?
Oh, that does look like my writing, hand that down to me. I must have left it in here from last time.
Hey, Keith.
Huh?
Could you grab another agenda?
You on? Presentation. Don't
Since
worry,
you're
you're
sitting in
all.
his chair, lead us in the pledge of allegiance. Turn to say the prayer.
But it's just not for a really nice reason. We're gonna argue and fight with it.
I'm here, exactly. That's what I am.
Yeah.
I get paid $2 for that.
Make sure he minds his P's and Q's. Keith. Mary Ann, if it goes along with the call, that turn. You can say, that's his personal caregiver. I'm the doctor's enforcer.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
He even dressed
All
up.
right. Sorry, what?
He even dressed up.
He did. Look at that. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh,
Good.
my Siri's trying to talk to us. So I can get rid of that.
It's difficult surgery.
Yeah, Siri agreed.
Yeah.
He said he looks nice. She said, uh-huh.
Did you watch the surgery?
All right, well, let's go ahead and just get started with our preliminaries. We're just 1 minute early actually is all, but by the time we get to through all of these, we'll be right there. So thank you, those of you who are here. We appreciate your attendance with us here tonight. This is the Rexburg City Council meeting as of April the 23rd, 2025. We will note that it's a week later than usual because we had 3 council members out of town, as well as a whole bunch of staff out of town on spring break last week. And this week, we also have 3 council members out of town, but we do have Eric Erickson, just two online.
So just two.
Oh, I thought there was going to be one more going to be gone. Oh, well, we're good then. Okay, we're good. We're good. We don't even need Eric to be online unless you want to be. So he said he thought he could be online tonight. So we'll welcome him as well. All right, we will start out this meeting with a prayer, opening prayer, which it's my turn to offer the opening prayer, after which I've asked Council Member Johnson to lead us in a pledge to the flag. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to be citizens of this great city of Rexburg and in this great land that we live in. We're grateful for all the blessings that we have and the good people that surround us each day. And we're grateful for those who work here at the city and work hard every day to keep the city running smoothly and to take care of emergency situations as they come up. And we're grateful for those on this council who are willing to step up and help to make the decisions that we need to make to help keep our city a great place to live and raise our families. We ask you to bless us this night with wisdom, that we might be able to make good decisions and do the things that would be good for the community and that would have us do. These favors and blessings we pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, well, let's jump right to it. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead with the roll call of our city council members. Mariana, please. Good to see your smiling face, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Reeser.
Here.
Councilmember E. Erickson.
Here,
He's here. Thank you.
can you
Eric.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you so much for being online with us tonight. We appreciate your efforts to do that.
You bet.
All right, we will go ahead with item number 3 on the agenda, which is a presentation from our very own Jed Platt concerning the Flood 50 event.
Good evening. I'm excited to share with you tonight an event that's been nearly 50 years in the making. Next year, we'll commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Teton Dam flood. Thank you. Many of you are familiar with this event or participated in it or have family history that reflects that event. We consider it an event that helped to shape this community and definitely worth commemorating. And as we've considered this, how do we best commemorate this event? We thought, well, we don't need a monument to disaster, but the thing that we want to concentrate and focus on is the service and how working together in the recovery is what we want to reminisce. So in your packets, we have some general flood facts, or you can speak with Alicia from the Museum of Rexburg and the Flood Museum. For those, recently we've produced a new documentary called Flood of Memories, and I believe the council has seen that film. This was in prelude to our Flood 50 commemoration, and an accompanying book will be released as part of Flood 50. For the last year, we've worked with committee representatives from surrounding communities. We fully realized that this wasn't a Rexburg specific event, but that we have become the steward of the story. And so as we were looking at how to best commemorate this event, we wanted to include all the surrounding communities, those who were affected. And so we've been meeting and discussing how we best want each community or entity reminisce and commemorate this event. And so our vision together for Flood 50 is really a threefold mission: to remember, to serve, and to connect. And so several ways that we've come up with how to best tell this story. There will be events happening the first full week of June of 2026. We will be doing walking tours of downtown Rexburg, identifying evidence of the flood that still exists. As well as Sugar City will be hosting walking tours. They've developed a really neat presentation in collaboration with BYU Idaho students of kind of a before and after app that you can look at what it looked like during the flood and what it looks like today. So there'll be some interactive activities going on. A big part of the event will be a ribbon cutting at the dam site. There are some site improvements that are underway with some new signage and trails. So there'll be a VIP event that will happen on the actual June 5th anniversary. We'll be hosting bus tours that will follow a route. We are compiling an audio tour that will be part of that experience, explaining different sites that you may pass along the way and incorporating narratives of people's experience in those communities. And then you'll have an opportunity to visit the site. And then on the way back on your bus, you will have someone who has a firsthand experience that they will share with your group. When this commemoration event is over, we'll make those downloads available on the museum website. So you could go with your own family at another time and take a road trip and listen to this flood tour. Some other events that we are inspired by is having some smaller listening groups. For the last 5 years, we've hosted an event called Flood of Memories at the Romance Theater on the anniversary date. And we've shared one of our flood films and then opened up some time for people to reminisce and share stories. And it's been so inspiring. Every year, we hear stories that have never been shared before. We'll have a family that may participate together and someone will share a story and the rest of the family's like, we've never heard you share that story before. And so this really helps to bring those to the forefront as people reminisce and record them for their own family history. There'll be exhibits and displays throughout downtown. One event that's been very memorable for people as they reminisce their own experience is a week following the flood. There was a gathering at Ricks College where Spencer W. Kimball came and spoke and gave a message of hope. And so we would like to culminate in something similar up on campus as a fireside type event at the end of the week. Cool. Some of the fun activities that we're starting to plan is a golf tournament. Of course, we have our traditional Teton Dam Marathon with the following party in the park at Smith Park in conjunction with a preparedness fair. We'll be doing river floats and also as we considered how to best tie the communities together, the idea came to have a motorcycle rally. And so we're going to have a group start at the Teton Dam site and end up at the American Falls Dam where the water was contained. And that will represent this thundering roar that went through all the communities all the way down. So we're excited about that.
Cool idea. Colin gonna be leading that parade?
So
I didn't know if I want to lead it.
So Terry Hill is on our committee and she's heading up the motorcycle rally.
Oh, Terry, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
We are looking for ways for people to be involved hands-on and express their experience. We have a lot of samples of original flood mud. And as we're boxing up the museum, we're like, it's still dirt and it's crumbling. How can we reimagine this? And so we're inviting artists to be inspired by it and interpret it in a new way. So it's going to show up in other works of art as part of this Flood 50 event. We'll be doing a historic photo exhibit. We have a few concepts for a future, either a monument to volunteers or along the river walkway to do a wind sculpture along that riverway to commemorate this event. There'll be some, again, interactive community art opportunities. We'll be showing our 3 flood films on a rotating basis at the Romance Theater. And then there'll also be a live theater production based on those stories at the Romance Theater. And the picture below, you can see of what it looked like at the flood. And if you've driven by recently, we have new front doors just this week on the theater. It looks great. Another centerpiece of Flood 50 is an interactive exhibit We will have as part of our walking tour downtown displays, some at the Romance Theater or at the county courthouse. But we are hoping to do an interactive, immersive display that inspires a new generation to consider a problem and what's a solution. And so they would walk through first, how do you grow anything in an arid area? And that was the problem for our first settlers. And how did they solve that? Next was, why did we even build a dam? And then the problem that occurred after that, how do you recover? And so they'll walk through these different scenarios with these interactive displays. And then the last part is to leave with, here are current community issues and what are some solutions. So we hope to inspire a new generation to look at solutions with that exhibit. And then finally, service is a big part of this event. As we considered, what's the cause that we can rally around now? Our hope is that people won't just come to this event and say, oh, we learned about flood mud. But 50 years from now, they can look back and say, I was part of an epic event. And the takeaway from then was how the community showed up for each other and helped each other. And so we want to do an epic service focused event. So beyond our borders and a local community need, we considered, do we offer flood relief for another community, or do we look at hunger in our community? Is that what we're going to rally around? And the more we considered that and spoke with different healthcare professionals, that loneliness and disconnectedness, that is the thing that we need to rally around. And so we are going to approach service in a broader way, but to include people through a Flood 50 service campaign. We're going to invite people to do either 50 acts of service or 50 hours of service in their community, whether they're in Rexburg or not. Rexburg really shouldered a lot of learning curves for different emergency relief and how they do dam safety. And so we also want to lead out on what does it look like for a community to rally and serve. And so as part of our website, people can log in their hours from wherever they are. And we want to tally those hours and collect their experiences now. So some examples, we'll be having a preparedness fair, look for opportunities in your own community. We've been in communication with Kirby Hayborn. He has a television program called Making Good, where he travels the country and focuses on different service projects. And so we've invited him to help us with that campaign. Here's our schedule of events. There'll be things happening for the full week, starting the weekend before with the listening groups, and then ending with our community devotional.
On the 7th. Cool.
I think
Wow.
we are so excited to take on this project. And 50 years ago, they had 5 minutes notice. At least we have a year to get ready for it. Are there any questions or thoughts or input that you might have for this event?
Pretty impressive, I feel. Any other thoughts or questions from anyone for Jed? Just one question I have actually for the whole group is, how many of you actually lived here during the flood? Is there anyone? 1, 2, 3, and then Christy and there. Okay, and Carolyn. Okay, that's pretty good representation. So what do y'all think? That looks like a pretty good program, don't you think? Yeah. Okay.
Great. We anticipate again that this will be something that will bring a lot of commerce to our area. We want to host the largest volunteer reunion. So a lot of our advertising will be beyond our borders. As relief efforts came from surrounding states, we want to do some outreach to say, come back to Rexburg and see what you helped preserve. And with the marathon and all the activities going on, we'll be advertising starting this June what's going to come, so people can reserve their rooms and make plans to be in Rexburg in June of 26.
Well, good deal. Okay, well, thank you for all your work, both you and Alicia and the whole committee. It's a pretty big committee from all of the different areas. cities and stuff, right? We appreciate all of your work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to item number 4, which is the time for public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda. If anyone has something they'd like us to know about, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes if you would, please. Is there anyone that'd like to make any comments this time? Oh, yes, sir. Come on up.
A little unfamiliar with the 3-minute comments.
Excuse me?
I'm unfamiliar with the 3 minutes. What is the scope of the 3-minute comments?
If you can just limit your time to 3 minutes.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
I'd like to discuss a little bit about LIDs, local improvement districts. I've been watching and attending the last 3 meetings on LIDs, and here are some of my thoughts and comments on that.
Okay. One of the things I would, that's actually on the agenda tonight.
That's for LID 54, yes.
Yeah.
This is LIDs in general.
This is just LIDs in general.
That's
you
right.
want to talk about. Okay.
Yes, my name.
Name and address, please. Yeah.
William Clements, 653 Vale Lane,
Okay.
VALE.
Okay.
Okay. Some of my thoughts that might be applied to the Rexburg LIDs. I'd like to read you a poem. Have you guys ever heard of The Ambulance Down in the Valley? Okay, this was written by Joseph Malins, and the rendition of this is done by John Denver. He just recited it. 'Twas a dangerous cliff, as they freely confess, though to walk near its crest was so pleasant. But over its terrible edge there had slipped a duke and a full many a peasant. So the people said something would have to be done, but their projects did not all tally. Some said, put up a fence around the edge of the cliff. Some, an ambulance down in the valley. But the cry of the ambulance carried the day, for it sped through the neighborhood city. A fence may be useful or not, it is true, but each heart came moved with pity, for the cliff is all right, if you're careful, they said, and if folks even slip and are dropping. It isn't the slipping that hurts them so much as the shock down below when they're stopping. For those who slipped over the dangerous cliff and the dwellers on highways and alleys gave pounds and gave pence, not to put up a fence, but an ambulance down in the valley. So day after day, as the mishaps occurred, quick forth would these rescuers sally to pick up victims who fell off the cliff with their ambulance down in the valley. Then an old sage remarked, it is a marvel to me that people give more far attention to repairing the results than stopping the cause. With a much better aim at prevention, let us stop at the source all of this hurt, he cried. Come, neighbors and friends, let us rally. If the cliff we will fence, we'll almost dispense with the ambulance down in the valley. For those of you who are having a hard time connecting this with LIDs, let me clarify some connections. The cliff is the lid. The fall is an unexpected bill from the city. The ambulance is the city bond loans on the property owner and the excessive strategic shifting of street costs to the unlucky city citizens. The fence is using the city funds properly and using other state legislation more effectively, so there's no excessive tax burden on the city citizens. Thank you for allowing me to this analogy, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. We will move, is there any other public comments? Sorry. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Isaiah Stanfield. I work for the city. I would rather not say my address just for safety of my family.
Okay. You can enter that in the record later.
Okay. Yeah, you can find my address with your records.
Yeah.
I just like to, go off of the general LIDs. I've been thinking about it. I haven't been to a city council meeting in this like this. So I'm not a great public speaker.
You're fine, go ahead.
But I've been thinking about it, and I have the same feeling. I'm against lids. I don't believe the citizens need to pay for the beautification projects of the city. If the city can appropriate funds correctly, they won't have to charge the citizens a bill that they're not expecting or they don't want to pay. A good example of the failure of lids is Park Street. The road is tiny. I believe there's a lot of damage to the residents' homes there because of that project, and it was difficult to recuperate for those residents. So I just want to put my feelings out that I think this is it's a bad idea to go on with lids. And one thing I did see from the last minutes was that the city council and the mayor just gave themselves a raise. I don't think it's appropriate for you guys to be charging the citizens for you guys' projects. So that's what taxes are for. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on items that are not on the agenda? Anyone online that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is item 5A are the committee reports from the council members. Let's go ahead and start down here with Council Member Reeser.
All right. Yeah, we had a Legacy Flight Museum meeting last week. If I remember correctly, it was last week. Sorry, it's been spring break, so time is all relative. And it was very productive, talked about the goals of the Flight Museum and the plans for the next year, and whether or not to have an air show and how often were we going to do those kinds of things. So that was very productive. Yeah, that's the meetings that I've had at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Chambers.
Thank you. This morning, we had a meeting with, excuse me, Congressman Simpson. One of the topics we addressed was the grant situation from the federal government to the city of Rexburg. And Mary did a great job in researching this, but we've had $1.16 million in federal grants terminated. And we've got 2.6 million in grants on hold. Congressman Simpson said the terminated grants, there's no chance to get those back. And the on hold grants, we're hopeful that something, and he's going to take this back and see what he can do. But the biggest of those on hold is that 2 million reconnecting communities. This is the study that would look at crossing the river and the highway and looking at alternatives and then drawing up plans on the preferred alternative. So hopefully we can get those back on track. It's hard for a city of our size to fund $2 million in studies like that and get plans prepared. And not to mention the utilities, our sewer, water. So many of those projects are just beyond our reach without some federal grant help. So that's just an update of what we told Congressman Simpson, and he received it very well. Also, cultural arts. We have this Friday a concert at the Tabernacle with Nathan Pacheco. It's an Easter celebration. There are still tickets available. You can go on the rexburgarts.com website, and there's a link to Nathan's own website where you purchase the tickets. And then on the 29th of this month, we have a Tabernacle Orchestra performing at the Romance Theater. That's free of charge. And that takes us through April. We met as an urban renewal board. Probably the only thing I'll mention there is construction costs have skyrocketed. It's put some of our projects in jeopardy in the downtown. So we're looking to meet with the developers to see if there's any way to salvage some of those redevelopment projects that include mixed use, commercial, residential, retail office. So that's something I'll try and report on in our next meeting. We've got a meeting tomorrow with the developers to try and figure out our next steps. So that's not great news. In fact, nothing I've said is great news. But I think that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Even though you're the bearer of bad news, thank you for that report. All right, Councilmember Johnson.
I had a question for Councilmember Chambers. So did Congressman Simpson have is there anything we can do as a council to try to, I mean, I can't think of anything, but.
Yeah, he didn't say there was anything more we could do. We're sending him a copy of this report. And his staff assistant said that she would look into it for us and hopefully get back to us. So
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I know we all got that email from Idaho Falls asking for help because their funding got cut,
Yeah.
I forget the name of it that represents. So I think there's a lot of Head Start, all kinds of things are
Oh, yeah.
having some
Yeah.
problems right now. As far as my committees, our Trails, Parks and Recreation, we're meeting soon. I haven't heard the exact date, but we haven't met yet for a little while, so I don't have any report.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Erickson, Colin?
The golf board did meet. We just discussed the golf season this year. Started out really well. Our course did fare through the winter pretty good. Greens were, and then you can tell that the courses are packed already out there. I see people out there all the time. So season started out great. For the school district, there's a lot going on in school district. There's about 4.5 to 5 weeks left. I think it's 4.5 now, but it's a packed schedule to end the season. A lot of sports things going on. There is a jazz concert on May 1st, a choir concert on May 7th at 7:30, and there's an orchestra concert at 7 on May 13th. Also, just put on your calendars, the graduation is May 22nd at 6 p.m. It'll be at the BYUI Center. And then next week, we have DARE graduation. We're invited to on April 28th at 7 p.m. at the high school. They'd like to have the
28,
council.
did
Yep.
you say?
Yep.
7 p.m.
Monday. That'll be for DARE graduation. That's usually fills the gym, and it's about an hour and 20 minutes long. So not a huge time frame, but like I say, lots going on throughout that. They say if you have interest in attending some of those concerts and stuff, and jump on the Madison High School calendar and it shows exactly time. So get a hold of me.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Councilmember Eric Erickson, do you have any reports you'd like to fill us in on?
Nothing really. I've been out of town, and so I haven't met with Parks and Rec department. But I think it's important to note that all of our city services are being hit by these grants, and Parks and Rec is one. I mean, I just think we're going to have to tighten our belts because we've been so addicted to that federal money since COVID that we're just going to have to, tighten our belts going forward. It's not going to be easy.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with item number 6, which is the staff reports. Our first one will be the finance report with our CFO, Mr. Matt Nielsen.
All right, good evening. So I'll hit these reports. So this first report is this treasurer's expenditure report. So really we are halfway through the fiscal year. So we're at 50% basically. So as you read through this on the column that says spent, we looked through those. I'll just mention that first one, the general fund is sitting at about 47%, which is a good thing because that's a highly operational fund, not a lot of capital in there. And so that tells you that we're trending on our expenses a little lower than that 50%, and that's good. Other than that, just a couple other ones. I am forecasting, doing a 6-month forecast as we prepare for our budget meetings. And there are a few departments that are looking in my forecast to be a little bit over budget. And so I've just been reaching out to them and saying kind of what Eric just said, tighten your belts and let's try to get that under budget by the end of the fiscal year. And then as I looked through there, sanitation was a little high at 58%, and that's simply because of that shop building. And so that's a big item there. And then on the last page, just you can see the overall spend is about 27.6%. So unless there's questions on that one, I'll jump to the cash report and investments report. For a
Any
minute.
questions from council members for Matt? Yeah. Go
Do you
ahead.
think the ones that are over are gonna be able to compensate throughout the
Yeah,
rest of the fiscal year?
Yeah, I think they will. They'll be close. You know, part of what I do when I forecast is I really go out and I try to do the worst case scenario, like as if they're going to go out and buy everything that's on that budget. And history shows that we don't necessarily always do that, right? But the hardest one, I think the ones that are going to have the most difficult time are actually both emergency services, or public safety, so the police and the fire departments. And so those are the two that are trending pretty high. So,
And I'd emphasize what Councilman Erickson said, is just, let's see if we can tighten up a little and be conservative as we go through this.
yeah. Okay, so on the other report, the treasurer's report, yeah, sorry, the investments report. Sorry, good catch, Deb. Probably the only thing that I'll say here, I tell you this a lot, but we're just trying to reinvest really in that 2 to 3 year period, just trying to lock in those higher interest rate returns. It is getting a little more difficult, particularly in water and sewer, because we have a lot of capital projects over the next few years. And so we're just having to look at our liquidity needs, if you will, and having to time those investments so that money is available for those big projects. And then the last one, I'll just mention, Keith's going to talk about this one a little bit later, but you can see that real estate investment streets. That one is going to close at the end of this month. And so in fact, I'm going to go sign for it, I think tomorrow. And that's the one that's over by Second East, the Squires property, we call it. And so you can see that's on the books at 327. We're actually going to close that at about 780,000 is what we ended up at. So gives you an idea. So that will come off the investments and go back to the cash, basically, that will help streets. And so that's a pretty significant thing for streets. So any other questions?
Okay. Any further questions for Matt from anyone? Council members? Okay. Hearing no, guess not. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. All right, item number B is our Public Works Department with Public Works Director Keith Davidson.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first item I have on there is the Recreation Department is looking to surplus a wheel kit from the Burley stroller trailers. They use these out on the golf course for skiing, and so they have a ski kit that goes on it, so the wheel kit isn't needed for that.
You said this last winter.
Yeah, depending on the snowpack, maybe it does come into play, but they're looking at surplus in that. Yeah.
So those are what they use for the Burleys in the summertime, but we don't really use them. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I would entertain a motion then to go ahead with the surplus action, item number 1 there.
I'll make that motion to surplus this property.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second to Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 2.
Okay, the second item that I have on here is we're looking to set the public hearing for May 21st to surplus some property, kind of where the old well house was. And that's on First South and Second East. It's been being utilized kind of as our maintenance building. Max works out of there, but we've transitioned him over to the Nature Park building.
Okay. Any questions or comments about this particular? Did you guys stop there on your tour by chance?
We did not.
Okay. Right. Yeah, it's kind of one of those situations where it's got a lot of old crumbling mortar and stuff like the Tabernacle had, and quite a bit of work that would have to be done on that. So anyway, unless there's any other questions, I would entertain a motion to go ahead with this surplus item as well.
So just setting the public hearing.
Sorry. My bad. I was just looking for, we need to set the public hearing to consider surplusing this building. So we would set the public hearing for May 21st. I would entertain a motion to do so.
I go ahead and motion that we set that public hearing for May 21st, 2025 to surplus the old pump house property.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
By Councilmember Chambers. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. All right, we'll move on to item number 3, which is the bid approval for the local improvement district 54.
Okay.
Got information for us on that?
Yep. So thank you, Mayor. We had 3 bids for the LID 54. We had Knife River, Edstrom Construction, and HK Contractors. HK was the low bid at 300. I wish that was the case. $3,297,102. When we put in their numbers, they were lower than our estimates. And so if you look at, they were lower than our estimates, other than the miscellaneous properties, those ones came in higher because those are unique locations. So the mobilization and those costs coming in, you see that those prices going up. So if you look on where it says difference, I want to highlight over there to the right there. So the difference right there, you can see the difference showing up. So on those miscellaneous properties, we have reached out to those property owners to let them know, and hopefully they can find someone else that would be cheaper to do that work for them on that. But if you look at the rest of the property owners, we do see, and this is also a pretty significant reduction in those costs. But this also includes, right, this is from the original estimate that we sent out, right? So that included curb and gutter and sidewalk on that. With the changes the council directed us to make, taking the curb and gutter off, with that's reflected in these lowered prices, but the sidewalk came in lower as well than what we had originally estimated on that.
Okay, well, that's always good news. Right. Any questions or comments from council on that before we move forward? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say I am really thankful that they came in lower. I think that's really
Yeah,
big.
no, we are always,
Yeah.
we're always hoping.
Yeah, but I'm going to vote no because of the things I've already said. So just making that clear.
So what is the difference between the miscellaneous properties and the other properties?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the miscellaneous properties are properties that changed hands that don't have sidewalk.
Okay. So they could
Right.
be, if there's
They're
3 areas
different.
in that LID.
So we have the 3 main areas in the LID. These are properties that have changed hands. We've notified them and said, hey, you need to, and generally we give them a fair amount of time. And then when it doesn't happen, then we move them on to an LID, right? So it's kind of our last, where we hope that they will just engage and be like, oh yeah, I realize I got to put this sidewalk in. And obviously a lot of realtors explain that, hey, your home doesn't have sidewalk, you're going to have to put sidewalk in. So the hope is, right, as they negotiate the price of the home, they can have that, or the property, they can negotiate that in and be like, okay, we got to put this sidewalk in. But these local areas, right, that are spread around the community, it just costs more, right? Because you're not getting that scale with the contractor coming in. And so that's why you see it higher. Now there is one area over on Andrews Place that I would probably say we do have a fair amount of sidewalk along that section. You have the, GIS up, or is that not? Go down to- Right there. And so Andrews Place. So he's like, it's this property. Oops, get over here. This property right here. But what we're thinking is, and and when we had visited with them, is there's a lot of sidewalk along this section, all the way up around. It might make sense to hold off and then put this whole area to complete that sidewalk in there.
Forthcoming and upcoming.
Yeah. Yep. Just so that way all the sidewalk kind of goes in on that section. So yeah. So that's kind of one of our thoughts on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keith, I have a question. Have you had quite a few citizens reach out to you since our last meeting at all?
For just the LIDs, I've talked to a couple.
Communicate with you and try to come up with.
Yeah, there's a couple. So we did visit with the floods. They sent me a letter where I think, was it her dad or whoever owned the property? There was a letter that said they wouldn't have to put in curb and gutter on the north and south, but that was reflecting, because we went through, did a bunch of research on that one, and that was just reflecting north and south side of 7th South for the curb and gutter. So it didn't have anything to do with the west side of their property on that. As far as other ones, yeah.
I know this would be a conversation for a different day, but I just wonder, is that the most effective way then, that miscellaneous? I know that that's what we've been doing, where if it changes hands, but some of those just look so expensive to do it piecemeal like that. Is that really the best way to do it?
Well, it's really the only way we have the teeth to make it happen, right? So we tell people you've got to put that in, and we hope that they just go get a contractor, they can figure it out and put it in. And then when they don't do it, that's when we have to come in and say, well, okay, here's our mechanism to kind of force the issue to put that in. And so unfortunately, yes, it's not the cheapest way, but unless you're not going to require that anymore, and just wait till we do street reconstruction, that would be the only other way to look at the kind of doing it in a larger group.
But that's also why you were suggesting maybe delay that one that's on there, because maybe in a future
Yes.
LID it'll be more
Well,
cost
and
effective.
those properties probably aren't going to change hands for a while, right? And so this is a mechanism to get that sidewalk in, right? Because obviously, right, we want to put in sidewalks where possible, so we don't have people out in the roads, right, or utilizing the roads instead of sidewalks.
But I think it's a good idea to try to clear up that one by Pioneer Road and down. There's a lot of kids walk in those apartments and that there's not any sidewalk on that side. So
yeah,
if we can get all that instead of just here and here.
Yeah, and council has opted sometimes in that case to authorize that, to say, yeah, let's put those properties on. It's been long enough. We don't have a sidewalk. There's enough use along there. So let's require that sidewalk to go in.
Yeah. And we do have on the schedule, we do have a study group, on the schedule also to study alternatives and things like that, and possibly even bond measures and things like that to see if we can pass for, alternative ways to do things. One thing that I did, because of the fact that we have been starting some research on that, I discovered that, well, in fact, one of our employees came to me with a letter that he just got from the city of Idaho Falls. And it said, I can't remember if he said he lives on 17th or Sunnyside, but anyway, he got a letter from the city that said that they're going to replace, I think it was around 40 feet of curbing, and it was going to cost him $3,500. And so, people have said, well, Idaho Falls doesn't do this, but they actually don't do LIDs, but they do make people pay for the improvements in front of their property. And I think, if I remember right, the city participated at about a 35% cost with that, but they don't have any financing mechanism. They got to pay it all up front or get their own financing and pay for it. So, the one obviously good thing about LIDs is you've got that 10-year time frame at a low interest rate to be able to pay it back. So that's just one of the things we've found out since we've started doing this, but we'll continue to do some studies on different ways that different cities do it and see if there's any kind of a different way that's better, and certainly try to come up with, some kind of improvements over what we can. But
how is the committee coming together? I've asked a couple if they'd be willing to serve on that committee. I'm still waiting to hear back from them.
Yeah.
Do we just get them those names to you once we get them, or do you already have a full committee?
No, if you'd get them to us, that would be great. That'd be great. To be honest with you, I was in the hospital 3 days and at home under drugs for another week. So I really haven't done much with that committee, but as soon as I get back full time, we'll kind of try to get that put together and start doing some more.
Well, that's why I reached out to a couple, and I'd like to see that committee get together and really study it out and see if they come up with any better alternatives. Right now, this is what we have, but I like the idea of having some citizens serve on that and come up with some suggestions.
Well, we've got four things in our favor. We've got several things in our favor that, we've got the financing, we've lowered the interest rate, we increased our participation, and and luckily the costs came in lower than we expected, which is always a bonus. So, anyway, we've got some good things going for us on that. But
And then I just have one more question. So if any residents want to be on that committee, they could contact City Hall too.
You betcha, you bet. Yeah, we'd be happy to have anybody that wants to participate on it and help us study things out. And see if
I would like to see a good
there's
cross
better way.
section
Yeah.
of our community on that, right? Business owners, people that have been on LIDs, people that haven't been on LIDs, a good cross section from our
Are
community.
they turning the names into you or to Brandy?
I haven't seen any. I know you didn't. Who had two? Oh,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
So we turn
And
them to Deb. Okay.
Deborah. Okay.
Yeah, and we were doing some preparation for that today. So that way we can, because at least my thoughts on it, right, is, right, I want to give them all the information, kind of give them the background on the first meeting, and then on additional meetings, have them come back and we can discuss different ideas with it. But I think that first meeting would be really good to try and help educate them on, here's where our funds come from, here's how we can work through that.
Okay, cool.
Heath, do you see any positives having representation from the city council on that committee?
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's great. Okay, any further discussions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the bid for this LID 54. Is there such a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the low bid for LID 54 to HK Contractors in the amount of $3,297,102.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Colin Erickson. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes, and we will move on to item number 7, which is a proclamation of April as Fair Housing Month. Councilmember Chambers, knowing that I'm a little bit under the influence, has volunteered to read this proclamation for me. And so we will go ahead and ask him to do that now.
If you don't know, the mayor had back surgery.
Oh,
So
yeah,
he's-
sorry. I guess
he's
that
in a
should be
little bit of
clarified,
pain.
right? Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for clarifying that for the record.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Whereas April 2025 marks the 57th anniversary of the passage of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act. And whereas the Idaho Human Rights Commission Act has prohibited discrimination in housing since 1969, and whereas equal opportunity for all, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin, is a fundamental goal of our nation, state, and city. And whereas equal access to housing is an important component of this goal, as fundamental as the right to equal education and employment. And whereas housing is a critical component of family and community health and stability. And whereas housing choice impacts our children's access to education, our ability to seek and retain employment options, the cultural benefits we enjoy, the extent of our exposure to crime and drugs, and the quality of healthcare we receive in emergencies. And whereas the laws of this nation and our state seek to ensure such equality of choice for all transactions involving housing, and whereas ongoing education, outreach, and monitoring are key to raising awareness of fair housing principles, practices, rights, and responsibilities. And whereas only through continued cooperation, commitment, and support of all Idahoans can barriers to fair housing be removed. Now therefore, I, Jerry Merrill, Mayor of Rexburg, do hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Fair Housing Month in the city of Rexburg, Idaho, adopted by the city of Rexburg, state of Idaho, on this 23rd day of April, 2025.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Chambers. I appreciate that. Would like to ratify this proclamation. Is there a motion to go ahead and do that, to ratify this Fair Housing Month proclamation?
Mayor, also move.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Chambers. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, item number 8. We have no items for consideration. Items number 9, calendared bills. We have the second reading, which is pursuant to the LID vote that we just did, and that is ordinance number 1330, the creation of LID District 54. This is a second reading. Of course, we voted for that a couple of weeks ago when we did that, when we created the LID. So I would entertain a motion at this time to consider ordinance number 1330 second read. Is there such a motion?
Mayor, I'll make that motion to
Okay, thank you.
1330 second read.
Eric Colin Erickson. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Reeser. Okay, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, that motion passes. We'll move on to item number 9B, which is a third reading of ordinance number 1329 to rezone 238 and 243 Ella Lane from medium density residential 1 to medium density residential 2. And we have discussed this twice before. Is there any further discussion from any council members before we consider this item third read? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to consider ordinance 1329 third read.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Chambers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. We will
Mayor, on that one, I just want to ask Alan, did we find out about that light out there that's laying on the ground? That street light?
Well, can we look into that one? He says there's a street light that's down on
The whole post and everything laying there on the ground. It looks like
We'll
just
check
need to be
into
put
it a
up.
little more. We've missed that, but we'll check into it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, the consent calendar, item number 10 is items which require formal city council action, however, are typically routine or not of great controversy. These include the minutes from the March 25th April 2nd and 11th and April 11th, 2025 meetings, as well as the approval of the payment of the city of Rexburg bills. So I would, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to, if there are no questions or anything about these items, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move, Mr. Mayor, that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Reeser. Any further questions about anything in that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. We will go ahead and get the bills paid and enter the minutes. All right, at this point in time, I think we talked about a lot of different things coming up in town. If there's nothing else, we will consider this meeting. Is there anything else that needs to come up?
I just had
Just as
one
an announcement or
question.
anything? Yes.
Is there a joint P and Z and council work meeting? I saw something on the agenda about when is that?
I think we have it on the 8th, is what we have it scheduled. And that's to go over some changes in the code that we would like to introduce to you guys to discuss and get your
May
feedback
8th.
on.
Is
What
that a
time?
Wednesday night or
That's
Thursday?
a Thursday night.
Thursday night?
What time is it at?
It'll be at 5:30.
5:30, May 8th. 5:30, May 8th.
And we'll send you that information prior so you can read through it before the meeting. Then we'll
Okay.
just discuss it
Maybe
that
just
point.
let you know, I'll be gone that whole week.
That
So
week
they-
of
I'll
May
try to
8th?
Yeah, I'll try to zoom in on the councilman on 7th, but I will be gone. I'll be out of town.
I'll be
Okay.
gone as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, hopefully, are you gonna be here, Councilmember Reeser? Do you know, Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah. I'll
And I
be here.
think Councilmember Walker will be here too, so at least we hope. Okay, thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your attendance. It's right there. Yeah, we'll see what we need here.
Today.